At the outset, let me state that I deem it a privilege and an honor to address such august gathering in these holy portals. I consider institutions, yes, PHEL, I don't consider it to be a simple public sector undertaking. It's a great institution, it's a pride of the country. Institutions like this shall make a difference how India can regain its past glory and can become a leading nation. So it's an honor for me to address in these holy portals you people. As you are all aware, we were living a sheltered life. We were in our own cocoon, highly protected environment we were working till 1990s. But we could not continue because, as we all know, this is a globalized era. In a globalized era, you cannot continue in isolation. We realized by 1990s, late 1980s. As you are aware, our financial position of the country came to such dire straits that we had to pledge our gold to just get, we were, so far as foreign exchange was concerned at the time, because see, when you are trading with other countries, you can't trade in rupees, you have to trade in foreign currency. Our foreign exchange reserves came down to just 15 days of imports. That was the sad state of affairs. We had to pledge our gold. Then the great visionary at the time, Shri P.V. Narasimha Rao, the late P.V. Narasimha Rao, okay, with Dr. Manmohan Singh as the finance minister, decided enough is enough for this country. We have got to open up this economy. We opened up, the floodgates got opened. We know what all happened, the rest is history. On the one hand, India made great strides, but for that economic liberalization, we wouldn't have been what we are today. Perhaps India would have been a completely chaotic nation. There would have been agitations everywhere. There would have been revolts everywhere. That could have happened. Some of the greatest achievements Indian economy achieved was because of liberalization. All of us are aware. The kind of economic revolution that has taken, the kind of technological and economic revolution that has taken place in sectors like telecom revolution, no other country in the world has achieved what India has achieved. We used to have a black box called telephone which hardly functioned. We were the world's lowest teledensity. We were the world's highest tariffs. From that, in 2 decades flat, this I proudly mention all over the world in my international lectures. India is capable of doing extreme things. Okay, India may be chaotic in many things, but India once makes up its mind, actually see the kind of achievement it can achieve is something remarkable. Okay, we have shown to the world. Today we are the world's second highest teledensity, next only to China. We are the world's lowest tariff. Okay, no other country could achieve the kind of tariff rates what we have achieved in telecom sector. Same thing happened in power sector, same thing happened in national highways. Okay, see now look at the roads, what roads used to be 2-3 decades ago, and today the kind of national highways what we have built, the kind of outer ring road we have built, the kind of airports we have built. Okay, we are proud of some of these achievements. But if you really analyze Indian economy today, as you are aware, there are the 3 basic sectors, okay? The primary sector, the secondary sector, the tertiary sector. Okay? The primary sector being agriculture, secondary sector being industry, tertiary sector being service sector. Okay? Service sector, tertiary sector, we are doing extremely well. Okay? India is able to compete internationally. We are able to attract investments, we are able to attract jobs, because we have to realize that today we are in what is called the post-industrial era. In post-industrial era, jobs become shiftable. Okay? Today, if a particular city is giving you better environment, jobs will get shifted from a job which is in New York, which is in Washington, can get shifted to Singapore or Hong Kong or Tokyo or Taipei. The same job can get shifted to Bangalore, Gurgaon, or any of these places, or Hyderabad. This is what jobs get Bangalore. Okay, this is the post-industrial era's thing. So far as this, okay, lucky that actually India caught up Okay, sometimes I mention because there is no government intervention, there's not that much of government intervention, that's how perhaps in the tertiary sector, service sector, we're doing extremely well. But if you analyze our performance in the primary sector of agriculture, secondary sector of industry, especially manufacturing industry, we have to learn a lot from the nations which got independence later than us, the nations which did not have the kind of infrastructure we had at the time. Okay? We are lucky that great public sector, because of the vision of Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru and other leaders at that time, very good public sector undertakings were established. Today, private sector may proudly say that actually says what's there in public sector says we are the giants, we are the world leaders, etc. Yes, some of us, some of our private sector people are doing extremely well. But where is the foundation? Foundation was basically laid by the public sector undertakings in this country. Okay, from IDPL, all the pharma giants have emerged in Hyderabad. Today, we are able to internationally dominate pharma sector. Okay, but some sectors, unfortunately, they had not produced. The industries had not produced that kind of ancillary industries. Otherwise, perhaps India would have been doing extremely well in some of these ancillary industries as well. Okay. So today manufacturing is one thing that is causing concern. We are not doing that well as we should have done. Okay, for the lead we had, initial lead we had. I am not comparing with the developed countries, America or European countries. We have to learn lessons from our Southeast Asian neighbors. How did Japan, which got totally decimated, okay, after Hiroshima Nagasaki bombing, okay, that completely got decimated. Okay, it was nowhere, from the ashes literally, how they built Japanese economy. When I'm coming to lean management, I'll talk about in a little more how Japanese industry has done extremely well, especially automotive industry. Okay, how lean management practices and other practices have helped Japanese economy. Okay, Japan has done extremely well. Another example I give is South Korea. South Korea, by and large, got independence along with us. Okay, it got ruined because Japan defeated it. Okay, there was internal war between North Korea and South Korea. South Korea, nothing is available, no resources whatsoever are available in that country. Okay. Today, it's a population of 6 crore actually. 6 crore population South Korea. Okay, the kind of international brands it has produced, be it LG, be it Samsung, be it Hyundai Rotem, etc., etc. How come a country of 120 crore population, we are not able to produce a single brand which is internationally recognized? We have to reflect over this. Okay, how come we are not able to produce a single brand that is internationally recognized? Not a single brand is available today. It's a matter of reflection. It's a matter of concern. We'll have to think over why we are not able to produce that. Okay. Next, our neighboring giant, China, the way it is flooding the international market with products in every conceivable field you can think of actually. Say. Today, so far as manufacturing sector is concerned, especially the consumer industry, okay, it's both a challenge and an opportunity. Consumer industry, the way world trade is growing, McKinsey study indicates that actually in the next few years, it's going to double. About $8 trillion of trade is going to be generated in consumer industry, okay, which is exclusively available for low-cost nations. Okay, $8 trillion to translate in Indian rupees is $1 trillion is 62 lakh crore rupees. That is the huge. $1 trillion is 62 lakh crore rupees. Please multiply it with 8 actually. This is the kind of opportunity that is available. But if you see the trends over the last decade, 45% of all the trade, world trade that is growing is captured by China alone, a single country. We are not able to capture. We are able to capture less than 5% of the growth I'm talking about. Okay, growth. So out of this $8 trillion, the estimates are that $3 trillion worth trade is going to be captured by China in any way. Still, $5 trillion, it's a huge, humongous amount of trade is available for the low-cost nations, the emerging nations. India here has got a golden chance, a golden opportunity. We shall make use of this opportunity. We shall try to capture at least, instead of 5%, 10 to 15% of this, okay? If we are able to capture this kind of a thing, we will be able to imagine the kind of exports, we'll have about 50 billion to 100 billion dollars of exports we'll have, if not $1 trillion of exports. We can even try for that. This is the opportunity that's available. And in terms of jobs, I'm a finance guy, okay? We do basically jugglery, but the service sector industry, the finance guys, what we do is only beyond a point. Actually, we cannot produce numbers from nowhere. The nation, the wealth of the nation is basically in its agricultural fields. The wealth of the nation is basically in the shop floor, okay? Unless and until you are able to productively, effectively produce at the least cost possible, as it's being mentioned, we will not be able to internationally compete, because the kind of rates which China is offering, okay? Even if you take a raw material product cost, actually see, their finished product cost is less than our raw material cost. So what is wrong with our nation? We have to seriously think, okay? What is wrong with our manufacturing procedures? Can't we learn from these things? Because examples are available, okay? What Tatas have done, for example, be it Tata Steel or Tata Motors. Nano, which is a world-class product, okay, at such low cost, they are able to produce, actually say, which is perhaps 1/4 of the cost of any other vehicle you can think of, which is produced internationally. Of course, the way they failed, marketing is a failure, that's a different thing. They should have adopted a different strategy, which they unfortunately did not do it, but it's an excellent product. Same thing has happened in Tata Steel. Tata Steel, the kind of value addition, the kind of cost reduction which they have achieved is something remarkable.